New York City, the city that never sleeps, the city that touches the clouds, the city that tells its story through steel, stone, and glass. But have you ever wondered how this skyline came to be? How did the streets of New York evolve from simple Dutch settlements into the towering metropolis we know today? What secrets lie behind those iconic buildings? Why does every era leave its mark on the skyline? Today, we're going to take you on a journey through the history of architecture in New York, from colonial simplicity to modern marvels. The Dutch and British beginnings. Let's start at the very beginning. Manhattan was originally home to the Lenape people, but the first European architecture arrived with the Dutch in the 1620s. Simple gabled houses, wooden structures, and fortifications defined early New Amsterdam. Did you know the Dutch even built the first city hall in 1653 on what is now Wall Street? It was practical, modest, and very different from the grandeur that would come centuries later. When the British took over in 1664, they brought a slightly more refined style, brick houses, Anglican churches, and grid-like planning in certain areas. But the city was still small, and the architecture focused on function over form. The 19th century explosion. Fast forward to the 1800s. Immigration was booming and New York's population exploded. So what do you do when everyone wants a home? You build upwards. The 19th century introduced iconic brownstones, those uniform, elegant row houses that still define Brooklyn and Manhattan streets today. But it wasn't just residential. Think of the Trinity Church, a Gothic revival masterpiece completed in 1846. Can you imagine walking past that spire and realizing it was once the tallest structure in the city? Meanwhile, the financial sector needed space, and office buildings began to rise. But it wasn't until steel frame construction arrived that New York truly reached for the sky. The birth of the skyscraper. Now here's a question. What building is considered the very first skyscraper? Is it the Empire State Building? Or maybe the Chrysler Building? Actually, the first true skyscraper was the Home Insurance Building in Chicago, but New York quickly followed. By the early 1900s, steel frame construction allowed buildings to soar above 20, 30, even 40 stories. Suddenly, Manhattan's skyline was filled with towering icons. And then came Art Deco, a style you've probably seen but might not know the story behind. The Chrysler Building, completed in 1930, is pure Art Deco. Gleaming stainless steel crown, bold geometric patterns, and even gargoyle-inspired car ornaments. It was a symbol of ambition, luxury, and optimism during a time of economic uncertainty. But why did architects choose Art Deco? Was it just aesthetics? Or was it about making a statement, a way to show that New York was the city of the future? Modernism and the international style. After World War II, New York embraced something completely different: modernism. Clean lines, glass facades, and steel skeletons defined the skyline. Architects like Ludwig Mies van der Rohe and Philip Johnson pushed the city toward the international style. Here's a fun question. Why does the Seagram Building, completed in 1958, still look so modern today? It's because simplicity and proportion, rather than decoration, became the new language of architecture. A glass box, yes, but also a statement about efficiency, power, and elegance. During this era, Midtown Manhattan began to fill with towering office buildings, while residential architecture experimented with high-rise apartment towers, like the famous Lever House and the United Nations Secretariat Building. Postmodernism and playful skyscrapers. By the 1970s and 80s, architects got playful. Postmodernism rejected the rigidness of modernism and reintroduced ornament, color, and historical reference. Ever notice the AT&T building, now Sony Tower, in Midtown with that funny Chippendale top? That was intentional, a wink to history with a modern twist. Postmodern skyscrapers asked a question. Can a building be functional and tell a story? Can architecture evoke emotion instead of just providing office space? New York became a playground of styles, where glass boxes coexisted with Gothic revivals and playful postmodern flourishes. And just when you think the city couldn't get taller, New York added super tall structures. One World Trade Center, 157, and the recent rise of Billionaires Row. But why are these towers so skinny yet so tall? It's all about zoning laws, sunlight access, and the quest for unobstructed views, an architectural puzzle solved vertically. Icons and legends. New York isn't just about skyscrapers. Bridges like the Brooklyn Bridge, completed in 1883, are marvels of engineering and style. Grand Central Terminal is not just a transit hub, it's a cathedral of Beaux Arts elegance. The Flatiron Building remains one of the most photographed buildings in the world. Each structure tells a story of ambition, innovation, and the spirit of a city that never stops growing. Have you ever walked past these buildings and wondered, how did architects overcome the challenges of wind, weight, and city planning to create these icons? What stories do the walls of the Woolworth Building or the Seagram Building hold? Surviving tragedy and transformation. No history of New York architecture would be complete without acknowledging 9/11. The Twin Towers, symbols of the city's skyline for decades, were destroyed in 2001. But what's remarkable isn't just the tragedy, it's the resilience. How do you rebuild the skyline after losing such iconic structures? The answer: innovation, memorialization, and ambition. One World Trade Center, completed in 2014, became the tallest building in the Western Hemisphere, rising 1,776 feet, a symbolic reference to the nation's independence. It's a question of engineering, but also of storytelling. Architects and planners didn't just build a tower, they crafted a statement about hope, strength, and New York's unbreakable spirit. The rise of super tall and slender towers. Ever notice those super skinny towers on Billionaires Row? Buildings like 432 Park Avenue and 111 West 57th Street seem impossibly tall and narrow. But why build this way? The answer lies in city zoning, air rights, and the desire for unobstructed views. Developers realized they could sell luxury apartments at astronomical prices if the apartments faced Central Park or had unobstructed city vistas. Architects responded with slender towers, pushing the limits of engineering while respecting the tight urban footprint of Manhattan. These buildings also face extreme challenges: wind sway, foundation depth, and elevator logistics. Each tower is a triumph of modern engineering, a delicate balance between aesthetics, function, and physics. And for architects, the question is always the same: how tall is too tall? And how slim is too slim? Innovation in public spaces and urban design. New York isn't just about tall buildings. It's about how architecture interacts with public life. Think Highline Park, an abandoned elevated rail line transformed into a linear green oasis. Or the Vessel at Hudson Yards, a structure more about public engagement than shelter. How does architecture shape the way we experience a city? These projects show that modern New York values not only sky-high skyscrapers, but also streetscapes, parks, and spaces that invite interaction. Urban design now blends utility, beauty, and sustainability. Speaking of sustainability, New York has embraced green building innovations. LEED certified towers, rooftop gardens, and energy-efficient facades have become more than trends. They're a response to climate challenges and environmental responsibility. Every new structure is a dialogue between form, function, and the planet. Contemporary icons and cultural statements. From the Metropolitan Museum of Art's modern expansions to the Whitney Museum's Renzo piano renovation, architecture in New York also reflects culture and creativity. Buildings are not just containers for life, they are storytellers. Have you ever wondered why the Guggenheim feels like a spiral journey? Or why the Lincoln Center buildings seem both monumental and inviting? Modern architecture in New York is as much about emotion and experience as it is about concrete and steel. Even contemporary residential and commercial towers aim to inspire. Architects experiment with geometry, light, and texture. Glass facades curve, steel lattices twist, and public spaces invite community. It's a city in constant dialogue with itself, past and future coexisting in every block. The future of New York architecture. So what does the future hold? We are already seeing trends: adaptive reuse, mixed-use complexes, and vertical gardens. Architects are exploring modular construction and 3D printing. The skyline will continue to grow upward, but also outward, embracing innovation, sustainability, and resilience. And perhaps the most exciting question: will future New York buildings continue to surprise us with daring designs, or will the city reach a new plateau of balance and regulation? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain: New York's architecture will always tell the story of a city that dares to dream bigger, taller, and bolder. From Dutch gables to super-tall towers, from brownstones to postmodern icons, New York's skyline is more than buildings. It's a living history. Every brick, steel beam, and glass panel reflects ambition, culture, and innovation. Next time you walk down Fifth Avenue, cross the Brooklyn Bridge, or glance up from the High Line, ask yourself, what story does this structure tell? How did the city reach this moment, and what will come next? Architecture isn't just about buildings, it's about the city, its people, and their dreams etched into the skyline. If you enjoyed this journey through the history of New York architecture, hit like, share this video with friends, and leave a comment telling us which building fascinates you the most. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss our next deep dive into the cities and structures that shape our world. New York has always been about ambition, innovation, and resilience. And as long as there's a skyline to build, there will always be stories to tell.